Hi guys, welcome to another episode of Talks with TEC. My name is Jibran and I'm here with my friends Ekta and Navya. So, first up, I hope you guys are safe and are at your homes, away from all the chaos that's going outside. And that being said, let's start our session. But before we start our session and I introduce our very special guest, I want to talk to you all about something that I feel doesn't get the amount of attention that it should get, and something that I really, really strongly feel about, and that is menstruation or the menstrual cycle. So these words find their origin from the Latin word menses, which, when translated to English, simply means a month. Now, according to the translation of the word menses, menstruation should become something that happens in a month. That simple. Now, menstruation are the 4 days in a month that give life to humanity. But the sad story is that in such an amazing and modern thinking country just like ours, it is still considered a huge taboo, where till date in many regions, young women, when on their periods, are not allowed to enter places of worship, are not given proper education about sanitation and hygiene, and are asked to sleep outside from their homes, are asked to use separate utensils, and to some extent also asked to avoid any kinds of physical interaction. So for today's episode, we have someone who realized the grave need to spread awareness about menstruation and came up with an idea which is amazingly unique and beautiful. Ladies and gentlemen, the CEO and co-founder of Menstrupedia Comics, the one and only, very amazing, Aditi Gupta. Hello, ma'am. How are you?
Hello, thank you so much. And thank you so much for that lovely introduction of summarizing all the myths. I'm really happy that you did all your research and you put all those myths there in the introduction. Correct.
Thank you. Thank you so much, ma'am. I hope you're fine. Your house quarantine been for you?
Not good. मेरा तो life इतना खराब हो गया है. Okay. Okay. So it's been challenging for sure. I think it has become a lifestyle shift, and because we are talking about pandemic and periods, I have had my irregular periods first time ever. So it's affecting us in a way that we can see and in the way that we cannot see also. So. But it's been challenging. But at the same time, there are a lot of things that we are doing at Menstrupedia where we are reaching out to people and like creating an army of menstrual educators. So our focus was not that before the pandemic. Our focus have always been on the girls, but right now our focus has been on the girls, but also to create this army of menstrual educator, which has become because we are dealing with this kind of situation.
That's really nice, ma'am. And before we start, I just want to take up the stage and say that that's a huge respect for the work that you're doing, ma'am. We are a
Hmm.
huge fan of you, and we wish you all the best with everything that you want to achieve. And we'll be here to support you anytime and with everything that you want.
Thank you so much. That means a lot.
Thank you, ma'am. So I'll just quickly go about how this is gonna go.
Hmm.
We
Hmm.
formed a set of questions that I'm gonna ask you, and some serious questions. And towards the end of the end section of our interview, we'll try to have some fun and funny
Okay.
questions. So we can
Yes.
start whenever you said you're ready. Whenever you're ready, ma'am.
I'll push it.
Yeah. So my very first question for you is, that's a very simple question though, but yeah, how and when did you realize the need to make people aware of the menstrual cycle?
Okay. So our work really started to spread awareness about menstruation. Uh, I think on the point because of when the for the first time I discussed about menstruation openly to a male person, and this male person is my co-founder and my husband Tuhin Paul, and also the co-creator of Menstrupedia comic book. So I'm going to tell a little bit about how I grew up. I think what I do right now has to do a lot with my own personal experience of facing the taboo. So I grew up in this small town. This town is called Garhwa. It is in Jharkhand, and so I got my periods when I was in class 7, and the chapter which appeared it came in class 9. Things have not changed much, but our biology teacher skipped the chapter. So I grew up in a very small place, and my school was really really small. We had only 6 students in our class, so you can understand that the teacher would be very close to us and he would take great care to make our lesson seem easy and fun. And our biology teacher was really a sweetheart. He was a darling, but he skipped the chapter. What was happening inside our home is that when I got my periods, I was told, like, when Jibran was sharing about all the myths, I was like, oh my god, this is what we were practicing also. I was not allowed to touch or eat pickle. I was not allowed to sit on the sofa or someone else's family member's bed. I had to wash my bed sheet after every period, all of that. Basically, I was considered impure. So I grew up looking at myself and my body as impure. Uh, Nobody knew what periods are, why do periods happen, but somehow I think we all grew up with this unsaid code or this silent code. Everybody knew that good girls don't talk about periods, or we just don't have to talk about periods. I don't know how we learn all of this, but we just learn all of this. And so I grew up with, looking at my body and myself as impure. So but that one conversation that I had with Tuhin, this was in when I was in my post graduation at NID, where since we used to do a lot of projects together, I get menstrual cramps. So I shared about periods with Tuhin, first time ever with a male person. And so he shared that, his teacher taught him about periods, but he thought that this is just a one time phenomena. He actually freaked out. It was quite a funny moment for us. He's like, what, you're telling me that you bleed so much and you don't die, and you're telling me this is normal, and above that you have all these restrictions, you have never spoken about it to any male person. I think that was the time it was kind of a epiphany for us, that if we, being so well educated, we're so ill informed about menstruation, there would be many out there. So we would look for information, and we realized that, yeah, we have read a lot of complex subjects in our science topics, but menstruation is a very simple biological process and so much of taboo. We start seeing more like a communication design problem, and we knew that as communication designers we can do something that can be usable, and that became like a college project. From a 4-week project to become it became a thesis project, and right now it is our life school.
Wow. So you experienced few things, you went through a problem, you discussed it with the right person at the right time, and what
Yes.
started as a college project is now this amazing organization that helps so
Yes.
many people and clear so many doubts. That's really amazing, ma'am. That's really amazing.
Yes, and that is why I'm very protective about all the college projects, because college projects are always started with a very personal pain point, and I really want to see them to life, and it really makes me happy to see entrepreneurs like you guys.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much. And that actually brings me to my second question, which is actually related to this, is that
Hmm.
comic books, right? That's a
Hmm.
very, very, kind of a different platform because I
Hmm.
thought like जब से मैं छोटा हूँ, I've been a comic head to be honestly speaking. So I grew
Hmm.
up in
Hmm.
comics, and
Hmm.
nowadays comics have become like vintage, in which they pay a lot of money to get them.
Hmm.
But what
Hmm.
led you to choose comic books as a platform to spread awareness, and what kind of
Okay.
challenges you face? Like, okay, so there
Right.
are like two questions here. For example,
Hmm.
why comic books, and the second is what are the challenges that you face?
Okay. So why comic book is a comic book I was actually not my first choice. We made a lot of other prototypes and we terribly failed. Why comic book? Because we wanted to use storytelling. So storytelling is a very amazing medium uh, to when it comes to talking about taboo topics. So we have to understand that we are having this challenge of breaking the taboo around menstruation, even if we are very well educated. Like, for example, my parents loved me, but I did not have access to sanitary napkin, not because we couldn't buy, because there was a shyness to go and buy sanitary napkin. So we are dealing with this human behavior, which is this embarrassment about our own body. Now, if we consider this the embarrassment of human body, what are the tools that can be used to overcome this? And stories are a great way of doing it. When a human shares their story to a different human being, we kind of relate to it. It helps us to open up, overcome our own embarrassment. And we were reading a lot about storytelling at the time of research. It was Tuhin's idea that why not use a tool of graphic narrative. At first, actually, I made a computer game, and we failed terribly, because I'll tell you why it was not working, or why a computer game in this area will not work for India if it is only a game. So I made a game which was a multiple choice question, and when I made this game, I realized that its flaw. First of all, to distribute a game on computer, you need a network. We do not have electricity. How can we ensure that there is internet connection? Computer is a very, even if there are schools who have computers band rehte hain, so the computer are closed. There is no computer teacher. So exclusive medium. It is not an inclusive medium. We wanted something which is inclusive. A print media is an inclusive medium. A print media do not need electricity, a smartphone or smart device to run on its, like, it can run on its own. You just need a very solid distribution channel. You don't even need electricity to read a comic book. But why the medium of comic book is because we were talking about something that India did not wanted to talk about. India right now wants to talk about. I think 8 years back, nobody was ready to agree that we want to talk about menstruation. I cannot. I will explain to you about the challenges, and one of the very funny conversation was with our investor. Um, we never got an investment, but I'll tell you about that. But so nobody was wanting to talk about menstruation, and right now also we might think that it is becoming a trendy topic, but we don't want to talk about it. So what is the medium that can create an environment where menstruation can become a comfortable topic? And when there are characters who look like me, who look like you, and when you say all these stories, so all the stories, so I'm just going to show you the book a little bit. So these are the comic characters, and these characters are all inspired by real life scenarios. These all stories are taken from our research, and what can I say? Educational points or teaching points are woven in these stories, and that is why comic became. We actually made a prototype. Before comic book, we also made a board game, and we, because we did not know a board game, I kept my hand on the paper, and it just, it was torn into two pieces. So we were not game designers, so that is why we couldn't make it, but comic was working in a great way. We tested the prototype. Even boys were reading it. So the comic that you see right now, or the so many school, actually 10,000 schools in India are using this book. It was actually like A3 size print template. You can just open it and read it. And we made it like a non-linear storytelling, because 4 or 5 people can read it together. So that you are not saying that, oh, you are reading a dirty book. Oh, I don't read these kind of book. And 4 or 5 students are reading it together. So we could see all of that. We can see the magic, or the space that this comic book was creating. But really, whatever product that you see right now is probably the 10th version of our content. It has evolved, it has changed, it has challenged our own belief, but we keep improving it, and that is why it worked. So, any student entrepreneur who is listening to me right now, I would really suggest to make prototypes. Prototypes helps you a lot to refine your content. Now your second question, which is about the challenges. We had I think the first ever challenge was overcoming our own inhibition. Tuhin and I started this project because of our own taboo. So there was a learning curve to talk about it to our own parents. And Tuhin is the artist of this. I do the research part, and I come up with the I and Tuhin, we both do content together, but diagrams is only his part. I don't draw as well as Tuhin draws, and the style that he can adapt to. This was a big challenge for us. And another challenge is that because we were challenging taboo, we were challenging our own belief system in our own house. So, and I think that challenge became the most empowering tool for us, because I involved my mother. So the first prototype was in Hindi, and my mother was the editor. So there are so many funny stories where my mother is very uncomfortable, my father is very uncomfortable, but through the making of the prototype, because she was reading the content, she was editing the content, she could see the visuals that Tuhin and I were drawing. She became comfortable. I tested the prototype with my building kids also. And then I can boost about, hey, this is working in a very middle class family coming from Ranchi and Jharkhand, so it is going to work with a lot of people in India. So I think these were the major challenges. But as business level, there are a lot of challenges, and fundraising was one of them.
And that's really nice, man. Like you said, like change, that someone has actually rightly said, the change starts at home. So when you start the change at home, it obviously goes to a very bigger level. That's what
Hmm.
happened here. And to be honestly speaking, that point that you made, that even boys were reading it. So I would just like to
Hmm.
add and highlight that comics are something that doesn't have an age or a gender barrier. So it's like, it
Hmm.
was like the perfect thing that you could come up with, right? And that was
Yeah.
amazing. To be honestly speaking, I read some of them. I've also told you that, some a female friend of mine suggested me to read it, and I was so happy because, it was just amazing. It was an amazing experience. So that
Okay,
was
okay. You
really,
guys have read Menstrupedia comic?
yeah, ma'am, I have read
Yeah.
some issues of it, but not all,
Yes,
obviously. But yeah, yeah.
okay. Hmm.
Yes, I have. So that's really
Okay.
amazing. So, and I
Hmm.
would suggest it to each and everybody that's watching us out there, that go and read this. It's gonna be helpful. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be a totally different experience. So you'll love it.
Yes.
So that actually brings me to a follow-up question. क्योंकि आपने कहा
Hmm.
investors के बारे में, तो I just want to ask you this question.
Hmm.
What was the reaction of the people when you pitched your idea? So I would like you to
Right.
share a few negative and some funny positive reactions that you got.
Right. I think Menstrupedia has always gotten a lot of love. But when people wanted to put money in it, the investor they never saw, like no business expert in 2012 saw it like a viable business idea. Everybody thought that, no, it was quite funny that you are in a room full of men, all in their 40s, have no idea who taught their daughter about periods. So they were like, who is going to buy a book on menstruation? And if they want to know information about menstruation, they can read Wikipedia. Not knowing कि in their home, their daughters are also not taught about periods. Schools do not teach girls about menstruation. The age the girls are getting their periods is probably 9 year old, standard five. No school board ever teaches you about menstruation in standard 9, in standard 5. The chapter that comes mostly come in 7, 8, or 9, or in 10th. Most of the time it is skipped, and also it is explained in a very vague form. Like for example, if they have to explain that there is blood that is coming out of the body, words like vagina is censored. So if as a child I am seeing a lot of Shah Rukh Khan movie, I would imagine that the blood is coming out of your body from where? From your nose or from your ears. So words like vagina or female body part or female reproductive system is completely censored. So we say all of this to the investors and they have no idea. They were like, no, nobody's going to buy a book on menstruation. This is and you are a bunch of designers. You need to be business experts. Of course, you need to definitely to run a business, you need to have business acumen and you need to cheat yourself. But what was happening is that on the other hand, people were loving Menstrupedia. Like how you said that some female friend of mine, suggested me to read few of these things or a blog, or you came across an article or something. The same way, women were loving it, and the men were suggesting their females to read it. Also, the way we were showing menstruation, we were showing it in a positive light. Like every time you see the conversation about menstruation, it is always done in a negative light. I think that I have to give it to Menstrupedia. We have changed the narrative and we have encouraged more people to talk it in a good way. Like for example, if you say the jingle goes like laga chundri mein daag and things like that. But right now, there are so many different campaigns that are going on which talks about positively around menstruation. So we thought, why not do crowdfunding? And we wanted to raise. So we left, quit our jobs. We put all our savings. We moved to a very small place, just one room flat, and working on it. But still, because only I and Tuhin was working on it, we did not have enough funds to develop it and print it. So we wanted to raise 4 lakhs and we ended up raising 5 lakhs. So for those people, those business experts, so what happens is that when you do crowdfunding, you people contribute to your campaign and you give something in return as a reward. So copy of the book or their name in the book. So for all those business experts who thought that this book would not be sold, the book was actually sold before it came to the market. So people gave their money to us, and this became such an amazing tool where there was a gynecologist who came on board, and a lot of people started working with us, and it really became. I mean, this project came to life because people needed that. This project needed to exist, and right now, I mean, it is a product company. We don't need any external funding. We have enough fund money to always translate it and come up with new product. But yeah. So my emphasis will be that whenever you look for funds, don't only explore one alternative. Go and ask money from your family members. If not, go and ask from venture capitalists. If you are in a technical, in a more trendy topic. or you can definitely look for crowdfunding, because when it comes to social projects like this, crowdfunding becomes a very important tool, because people really want to make this kind of projects happen, and then you have to figure out how do you want to make it sustainable.
That's amazing, मैम. And शाहरुख खान ने ही कहा है अपनी मूवी में कि जब आप किसी चीज को पूरे शिद्दत से चाहते हो तो पूरी कायनात में
Exactly.
सब कुछ
हाँ.
पीछे बुलाने लग
हाँ.
जाते हैं. I think that's what happened. That brings me to the next question. That is कि बहुत ज़्यादा confusion है मैम about getting pregnant during monthly cycles. I mean, if
हाँ.
I read out the statistics, around 25% of diagnosed pregnancies end in miscarriages because women mistake their pregnancies with normal cycles, right? So what do you have to say about that? Can you, like, is there a way to differentiate between them, या फिर हम किसी तरह से, something that we'll keep in mind so that हमें पता रहे, okay, we should be careful about this.
Okay, so ये जब whenever we talk about a menstrual cycle and myth, so there are a lot of myths, and their pregnancy is another ball game. I would say that I'm not a medical expert, and just making a remark on pregnancy should be I would be doing it wrong. But it is not easy to get pregnant, is what I have realized by becoming pregnant once. We see a lot of films and all of that, but when it comes to cycle, I think we should be careful about whether our cycles are regular or irregular. We should be talking more about our menstrual health. Women should be talking more about their reproductive health. It all boils down to pregnancy, because we as a society really think that a women's body का काम बस इतना है कि बच्चे पैदा कर दो. So when periods come, that is a problem. Actually, when periods do not come, that is a bigger problem. But it is also quite ironical that everybody wants a child, but nobody wants to but nobody wants to regard the process by which this child happened, which is menstruation. अगर menstruation नहीं होता हमारे मम्मी मम्मी को, तो हम लोग इस दुनिया में नहीं आते. So so the conversation should be that. But when it comes to specifically about your question about miscarriages and all, I really think that a gynecologist, it's not it's never, no women's body is same. Even though we have menstruation, everybody has menstruation, our hormonal levels are different, our the way we experience menstruation is different, how we are trying to conceive is altogether a different ball game. So the conversation should be, I think, mostly around what are the myths that we need to break. But definitely, I would highly encourage that seeing a gynecologist is a taboo. If talking about menstruation and reproduction is a taboo, seeing a gynecologist is a taboo also. Mostly also because gynecologists somehow are very judgmental. So maybe we should make sure that we just take care of our menstrual cycle better, and at least we just visit gynecologists once every year, and be friends with one gynecologist at least. Like those of the students who are in the medical college, just be friends with them.
That's a very honest answer, ma'am. I'd have to say.
Yeah.
And okay, that's really nice. So remember, going to your gynecologist, don't feel awkward, befriend them, and ask as many questions as you can, because asking questions is key, right? That's so. I'll ask the proper question then. That there are a lot of misconceptions about period pains, right? And you've been vocal about them. कि हमें कभी उन्हें, we should not ignore them. We should take them very seriously. So can you help us with that? कि आप कुछ चीजें हमें बताएं, clear some air over it. कि how important the period pains are, and why is it important to take them very seriously?
Right. So I think I'm going to talk about a little bit about period pain and also a little bit about myth busting. So I'll do a little bit about that. So if we bust 3 myths, rest of the myths would be busted altogether. So if we bust this myth that menstrual blood is impure, because we consider menstrual blood to be impure, there are all these myths that a woman's body is impure, or she cannot touch tulsi, she cannot go to temple, she cannot take a bath, or all of that thing, she cannot cook, all of that, anything that comes to impurity. Menstrual blood is a composition. Menstrual blood is basically your uterine lining. This is very little blood, which is a 2 to 3 spoon of blood, and all of the other things are the uterine lining and blood tissues and mucus. That's all. If we eat properly, this blood is replenished within a daytime. Iron, we have to eat a lot of iron as women. We have to eat a lot of iron and calcium. That's all. If you establish that menstrual blood is not pure, not impure, a lot of other myths could be busted. But it's not easy. Busting myth is a very different ball game. But understand, you as a girl, you should understand that menstrual fluid is not impure. If it comes outside of your body, if it is in the air, it becomes contaminated like any other fluid from your body, like your spit or your urine, all of that things. Okay. Second is menstrual pain. Because we have a lot of discomfort, pain is associated a lot with sin sometimes. That because I have sinned, because I have eaten improperly, I am having all these pain. Pain is basically this spasmic pain. It happens in the lower part of our body, because the muscles are contracting, putting pressure on the uterus part of our body to push the uterine lining out of our body, and that is why these pain happen. So any pain relief that is acting, it is acting on your muscles. You have to always consult your gynecologist for your pain. You can sleep like me. I take care of that. At least one day I'm getting rest from everybody and everybody is pampering me. But you can, exercising is good, swimming is good, taking care of yourself is good, giving yourself time. But do not say that, there are a lot of myths that, oh, because the girl has to take rest, that is why we say that you don't go to the kitchen, it is for her own good. This is this thing that it is for her own women's good. This thing has used for forwarding so much of sexism in our world, कि आपके अच्छाई के लिए बोल रहे हैं. So a man, so a person who is having a viral fever is much more contaminated as compared to a woman on her period. A woman on her period is not contaminated at all. So if you want to give women rest, tell that I'm having menstrual cramp, not that she is not, because she is not cooking food, because we as a family want to give her rest. In the environment also, you guys are super sweet, but in within our circle also, we should make sure that even though we don't talk directly about about taboo breaking, but if you can just create an environment where people start sharing about their vows. Why only menstrual cramps? But because I'm working with for a boy puberty book for boys, also building an environment where men can share their feelings is a great way to build a society robust enough to make sure that all these issues are addressed, and it happens with everyone. Does not matter period pain, menstrual taboo, um, uh, a girl considered to be impure during periods, a man who is crying not considered to be macho is not dependent on how educated or not educated you are. It happens with every one of us. So that is important. And the third is, a girl body has become sexually matured, and that is why she is stopped to interact with boys or touching someone altogether. So we have to understand that periods are definitely a process of getting a child. But if you think of all of us, we only have 2 to 3 siblings, or maximum 4 siblings, which means that a woman gives birth to a child only 4 times. The rest of the time, these eggs that are released are have to come out of our body. So our body is just getting used to it. 12 years when we get our periods, our body is not ready to have a kid, and getting pregnant is a very very complex process. Okay, getting pregnant is not easy at all. It's a complex process. How easy it is shown, it is not at all. So I think that just understanding that even though the girls have reached sexual maturity, to get pregnant is altogether a different process that takes place. And that is, so if we burst all these 3 myths, rest of the other myths are gone. But why I always mention this is also because I came across during my research that standard ninth standard girls, they would say that, Didi, we are really fearful of going to our tuition during our periods, because if the boys will come to know that we are on our periods, they would rape us. It just, I was heartbroken at so many levels, because we are not having these kind of conversations. Girls are fearful of going to school because they think that boys would rape. Again, if a girl or a woman can't even talk about her natural biological process, how is she ever going to talk about her any violence that she faces on her body? So we need to empower our sisters, our colleagues, our friends to talk about menstruation. it is a way, it would not directly um, help us to address sexual violence, but it will definitely help them to get empowered about their body. And just getting empowered about the body is half the battle won. And then they can raise their voice about sexual violence, they can raise their voice about somebody teasing them, or just having a conversation, open conversation, but with boys also, that what is rape, why are we scared, and not all men rape, and just staring does not mean raping, all of that. So I really think that myth busting goes a long way in not only empowering girls but also empowering boys, because they are misunderstood a lot of time.
Right, exactly. So, girls, please remember that you are not impure. You are never impure. No part of it, no, your menstruation is not impure. It's perfectly normal and natural. And you need to talk about it. The more you talk about it, the more it will help each other to get empowered. And people get to know that these myths are just myths and nothing else. And then go out there and know that getting your periods and getting pregnant are two different things. So that needs to be very clear. And then you can just be as active and normal as you can. Go and pull a cheek, go and slap someone if you want to, but be as normal. And know that these are just myths, nothing else. This should not
Yeah.
be affecting you.
I think with period irregular, so period and pregnancy, I can imagine college kids having these kind of question. I had a lot of question because I and Tuhin were in a live-in relationship, and I think the biggest nightmare for us was to have a child. So I can understand. Let me address it. So absence of period means that you are pregnant is a very common perception. So of course it is true that if you are pregnant, the menstrual fluid that is there, it is utilized to nurture the embryo in your body. But irregular periods happen with because of a lot of reasons. Like for example, PCOS and PCOS and endometriosis are very very common, and it is, unfortunately, it is very common in our generation. People just blame it on women, that because the women is going out working a lot, all of that. But our lifestyle has changed, the earth has changed, our environment have changed, climate have changed, and that is affecting everyone's body. So if you are having irregular period, you have to go and check with a gynecologist. I will tell you when to see a gynecologist. If your periods are irregular for 3 months, you have to check with a gynecologist. If you're having terrible cramps, it might be a sign of endometriosis. I had a friend who was having terrible cramps, and many of the doctor associated it with eating bad food or eating outside food. But they got checked, and it was actually endometriosis. So you have to check it with gynecologist. And definitely when it comes to pregnancy, please read about how a child, or how a egg and a sperm meet, and how it is infused. There are very safe videos, there are very tasteful videos that are made. The more you keep yourself informed about it, and every time you have an intercourse, it has to be used, I mean, it has to be done in a way where you have protection. Using a protection is always a good idea, not only to prevent pregnancy, but also to prevent a lot of sexually transmitted diseases. It's a very healthy practice, and we must talk about it as soon as we become 18.
That's really nice. So, guys, please, guys and girls, use protection and know that
Yeah.
exactly that. I'd like to repeat that. Having your period pains doesn't mean that you it's just a normal body reaction. It's not something very serious. But in case it's a prolonged thing, you need to go and check with your gynec. That's really nice. That gets me to the next question, which again is spreading awareness, related to spreading awareness. Now, you've been actively and you have been very vocal about menstrual teachers and menstrual educators. And so, can you just share a bit about your masterclass? And a follow up to that would be that, who and how could one become a menstrual educator?
Yes, I'll just share. So so my masterclass is because we realized that during this pandemic, we are all locked inside our homes, and we have nobody to talk to. There is a lot of anxiety in mothers on how to talk to their daughters about periods. We are working extensively with the schools and educating more and more teachers and inspiring more and more schools to use our material, but schools are closed. So how do we make sure that girls know about menstruation at the right time? Because our goal has always been that. Um, and one of the way was to create an army of menstrual educators who can talk about menstruation. So right now I'm really feeling very empowered to have this conversation with you guys. We need more people like you, just very comfortable to talk about menstruation. If we have more people, I know that if you have cousins, if you have your batchmates or colleague, they would be having a better life as compared to those colleagues who do not talk about periods at all, or your sisters are pretty lucky. So this is exactly what we want to do, but in every home and in every office. My masterclass is a 2 hours masterclass where I package all the secret recipe of what we are doing at Menstrupedia and give to people. So anybody is feeling any inhibition to start their journey. So in my masterclass, I have had students, I have had Teach for India fellows, I have had fellows who are doing their master thesis. I have had very experienced gynecologist also, where I was very nervous just to know that she is in my masterclass. But there are a lot of there are also mothers. So in few of the masterclass, there are mothers along with their daughters also who attend the masterclass to know how to teach the girls about menstruation. But apart from that, we empower them to use our Hello Periods video. So Menstrupedia has a lot of free educational tool that is available for anybody to use it, and we just make sure that we give all of these to these people. Apart from the masterclass, we also have a 10 hours extensive course for change maker, where we empower people to, where we teach people to not only teach and learn about menstruation, or develop curriculum about menstruation, but also about topics like this, about, let's say, like how we discuss about how to deal with child sexual abuse, or dealing with teaching periods to people with special needs. Or there was a male person who wanted to become a menstrual educator. He was like, I am a medical expert, but girls are not comfortable sharing their period vows with me, and I want to become a menstrual educator. So we teach all of that, and design process, design thinking, fundraising, business model development. All of this becomes a part of our course.
Wow,
But
that's
our
really
next,
good.
yeah, and
Yeah.
my next master class is happening on 15th of August. If any of you want to join, I mean the listeners.
Sure, sure. That's really nice. That's really, and just for our listeners again, where can we access and have access to the masterclass? Can you please share that also?
Okay, so I'm really active. So right now, our lives have changed a lot. So I'm really active on my Instagram. My Instagram is the menstrual educator. Please follow me. Please follow me, because you will get every update of what is going. Like, this is like, you will be the insider. You will know everything that is happening. But we have Menstrupedia's page. We are very active on Facebook, Twitter, and on Instagram. So you can follow us on all of that, and we keep announcing the dates there.
That's very nice. So guys, please follow her and follow Menstrupedia website for, and this is really life changing. I've followed it myself, and I can tell you from my personal experience that I get to learn so much. That's really
So
amazing.
sweet. So
So
sweet.
that gets me to the next question again, which is about something related to spreading awareness. And ma'am, you shared in the starting of our interview that you had a hard time learning about your menstruation in your school,
Mm.
right?
Mm.
And it's such a big taboo in. It's a sad thing that in such a modern country and growing country, it's such a big taboo again. So how I would ask you a question that how would you suggest we incorporate menstruation and to that extent even sex education into our curriculum and bring that creatively up? What would you suggest?
Hmm.
How do we do it? How can we change the education system in some ways?
Right. So I really think that when we work at system level, so for just I just wanted to clarify that not only in India, menstruation is a taboo. All of South Asia. So all of South Asia, like भाई बहन है सब लोग. श्रीलंका वाले एक जैसे ही हैं. श्रीलंका, Pakistan, Nepal, Bangladesh. All of us are like very similar people. But we ship Menstrupedia to 20 different countries, and menstruation is a taboo, and the challenge that how to teach about menstruation, but not only menstruation, but also about sexuality education, sex education, is kind of a challenge to everyone. One particular curriculum probably would not work. It has to be different strategies for different kind of audience. But when it comes to, let's say, when we talk about education system in India, it has to, first of all, we have to relook at what time we are teaching girls and boys about menstruation. But there are a lot of different things that the government has to do. When it comes to textbook, what to do in textbook, I think the first step is to, there are a lot of things, but the first step is to have that diagram proper. Please, government of India, whoever is listening, make this universe, make that happen. That diagram of reproductive system is so vague in our book. If they can fix that, can they can label, if you can just label, label ovaries, fallopian tube, uterus and vagina, at the same time male reproductive system, it is not labeled at all. Where is the sperm ejaculated from? What are the different parts of the penises? That would be a huge leap, but I can understand that it would take years and years for that to happen. And that is why external support like Menstrupedia comes in picture. So if every school can ensure at least 10 book in the library to have it there, so the students can borrow it, read it in their own time, take it to their home, that is a great tool. Also, we need to have a robust education system like that. Teachers should be comfortable about it. So we need to have tools that are very easy to use for the teachers also. Av material, videos. So we have hello periods video, if we can show. uh, but you know what I have seen that has worked very beautifully is the system fixing itself. I'll tell you what has happened. So what has happened is that Menstrupedia comic book was launched in 2014. So in 2014, there were a bunch of schools, actually hundreds of schools who got these books. And by 2020 or 2019, these girls, that time was in class 7. Now these girls are in class 10, 12. Now the girls themselves are teaching younger girls in the school about menstruation. And the teacher does not have to come, so the girls have become like these thought leaders in these schools. And this model, I think, work a lot. Till the time we do not make sure that every girl who is in standard 5 becomes up to be a girl who is in that didi in standard 12, who is taking menstrual awareness classes to younger girls. uh, this is a very, what can we say, this is a very short formula of doing it. Government pe depend hoke karna would be a very complicated, but there are other things that the government is really taking good care of. Like for example, there is a lot of focus that is on MHM right now. The government has, the Ministry of Women and Health has made a technical advisory group, which I am also a part of, by taking all these people in this ecosystem to talk about MHM. Government has Kishori Swasthya Karyakram and all of that. But I would suggest that a government together, like alone they cannot do, or a Menstrupedia alone cannot do, or an NGO or a sanitary napkin company or a film like Padman alone cannot do. Everybody has to come together, and it will be it will create an halo effect. It will have a cumulative effect on it.
That's right. That's right. So obviously, knowledge is power. So the more you read, the more you need to know. Plus, I mean, I would like to add here, because you said, girls teaching other girls and students teaching
Hmm.
other students. So that's like a lot of things. A lot of times, we as students can't share a lot of things with our teachers or even our parents, because we feel that there's a gap, there's some unsaid gap in between. But we can share that with our friends, we can share that with our seniors or juniors. So that's a
Hmm.
really good idea. That if you know something, try to spread it, try to talk about it, don't feel awkward about it, just spread the whole message. And sorry,
Exactly. Yeah,
that,
exactly. It has to be like cricket. You don't learn cricket from your teacher or from your coach. You do it after the, it's only your elder bhaiya or your teacher or your friends. I mean, you just naturally learn about cricket. I think we have to create an environment like that, where young girls are feeling very empowered to talk to their older didis, and older didis are always very, like, they are very informed about it. Like, मैं बताता हूँ kind of.
yeah. So older didis, take the charge, okay? Please,
Yes.
you are the hero here. All right.
Yes.
So my next question is a bit personal. I'd like to ask you that, but it's actually important, because
Hmm.
it's through these things that people come to know. So one
Hmm.
uncomfortable situation you were in when you just suddenly got your period or something. One initial conditions. Obviously, you've grown into a very amazing person, and something we've come out
अरे
with.
नहीं यार, even now also it happens.
Okay.
So very recently, I'll tell you this. This happened when I was going to Mumbai. I was going to Mumbai to give a talk on menstruation, and I was having only menstrual cup. I did not have a sanitary pad, and the airport bathrooms are very small. Like, by menstrual cup, को लगाने के लिए you use so many positions. So I pulled, like, so my cup was leaking and I got my period. I didn't know what to do. I was not carrying a sanitary napkin, and I asked the this person, the air hostess, to give me a pad, and they would go in so much hush 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 hush. I waited for half an hour to get a pad and all of that. So yeah, I mean, uncomfortable situation with periods happens all the time, but I will tell you about these are not actually uncomfortable situations for me right now. My uncomfortable situations, most of them are with the people who are working in this scenario, and who those people who are anti pad, and those people who are about sustainable menstruation. I think I love everybody's work, but somehow the whole conversation about period activism has gone wrong with anti-pad movement. I think we have to give to pad. I mean, I love sustainable menstruation conversation also a lot, but a thousand pad put me where you and I are, and we should see that we should not put the burden of saving plastic on young girls. So this really makes me very uncomfortable, and those panels where I'm in, and we are like, I'm talking to some of the people who have worked in this scenario for years and years, and I really love them. And they are like, oh, इसने पैसा खाया है sanitary napkin company से. We are sponsored, by the way, with by right now we are sponsored with Stay Free, and I have to give it to them. But also, this conversation about plastic, if you look at in this pandemic also, and if you order food, you can see the amount of plastic that is coming in your house. So this conversation about that, young girls ko hum log, we should not give sanitary napkin because sanitary napkin have plastic. As a woman, or as a man, as a young girl, I suffer enough already with all the gender stereotyping and with all the sexism. I think when it comes to sanitary product, I must have the choice of using the best ever. So yeah, so that is that these are some of the things that makes me uncomfortable.
So yeah, sanitary pads are important, and people need to know this also. And to be honest, and that's actually kind of a coincidence. I told my mom that I'll be having this conversation about menstruation with someone who's an expert, and she just texted me that don't forget to talk about wash. So I'd like to inform
Yes.
our viewers and also that hygiene and sanitation is as simple as wash. That consists of water, sanitation, and hygiene. So if you
Yeah.
keep wash in your mind, you will be taking good care of yourself. And sanitation is a very important part of it. So keep that in mind. That's really nice. And just to add to the point that you shared a story with us, that's really amazing. And I can just say that you've not lived a good life if you haven't had a bad experience in an aircraft toilet. So that's just I would give it up to you. I would give it up to you. So that's just amazing. And
Hmm.
that'll get me to the next question. But before that, I'd like to share a story with you, all everybody, right? So thank God, I've been blessed with amazing sisters, bold, strong, and beautiful women in my life who have made me into a man that I am today. And it's through them, it's through observing them and talking to them that I got to know about what menstruation truly is. I used to have, my sister, my elder sister is quite bigger than me, very, very older than me. So the gap is too much. She's like just like my second mother. And
Hmm.
then I have like younger siblings and younger cousin sisters. So I just have this open conversation with everyone. But I started to learn about menstruation after seeing her, my elder sister, right? And seeing the change in a bit of a change in her behavior during one particular time of the month. Sometimes, in some other times. Initially, I used to
Hmm.
just think, maybe she's not feeling well, maybe something will just put her off or something. But then I started observing a period, a pattern to it, and it was a really, really long process. And when I actually gathered up the courage to go and talk to her, ki, Dee, what is wrong, please tell me, I'm your brother, I won't
Hmm.
hurt you, I won't judge you, please tell me
Hmm.
what is wrong, because I've seen that it's troubling you. So that's when she just smiled and told me all about it. But I would like to add this, that not all of us, not all men are blessed with something like this. And even to that extent, even I didn't have the amount of courage for a really long time. So I'm going to ask you for a few tips for us males to understand the whole concept of menstruation and what to do when when your
Hmm.
partner, when your friend, when your sibling is going through her period. What should we do
Hmm.
next time when we experience something like this, when our close ones are experiencing the period, we can make them more comfortable.
Hmm. Oh my God, you are so sweet. And I would have to give it to your mom also, because I think we can see that how lovely they have raised you also. Um, just to add a little bit on the wash conversation, when we talk about sanitary pad, we have to also talk about menstrual disposal system. We don't talk about it enough. Anyways, when it comes to what can men do in menstruation, it has to definitely start. I think it has to definitely start with sisters involving men in the menstruation. So what we are doing is that we are not discussing about it to our own brothers. So please do that if you are a female viewer. But men, I think you can be informed about menstruation. If I would really say that if Tuhin never cared to look about menstruation and discuss all of it to me, I would have, I mean, Menstrupedia would not have been there. So empathy is very important, and just being informed about it. If you start so if you start to address it in a way that you show that I'm non-judgmental, the other person opens up. It's not very difficult, but there are a lot of other things, like for example, it's always a good idea to get sanitary supply, like Tuhin always. So I used to send Tuhin to always get my pads, and that is how we figured out, oh, there are these menstrual cups which are amazing, and I do not like, Aditi would not make me run to get sanitary pad, and he actually introduced me to menstrual cups, and I was really skeptical about it, but menstrual cup changed the way I experienced period. So so there are a lot of things maybe the girls are also not knowing, and because maybe because of the conditioning or something like that, but you can always help them with that. uh, Always making sure that you create an, I would say that, there is no formula about it, but if you can by your ways create an environment where talking about menstruation is all right, I think that's a great way. But not only talking about menstruation, but also an environment where men also can share their fear, because sometimes people consider that men who talk about menstruation are unmanly. Even that is like, even that is, but if you can just, if you're talking, if there are a bunch of boys, and if you are having a conversation about women or about menstruation or about your feeling, and if you are that guy who is telling the other guys that, hey, it is all right to talk about menstruation, it is all right to be compassionate with the other gender, I think you are doing your job all right.
So first up, hats off to Tohin sir. He went
Yes.
out there and
Yeah, yeah.
did something really nice, and that's really sweet. And then, boys, please take a note. ठीक है, बात करो आप लोग भी. Don't feel shy about it. Life is all about change. Even we as boys go through a lot of change physically and biologically while growing up. So it's pretty normal for a girl or a woman to go through change all throughout her life. So just take note. Next time you can be really helpful to them. That's really
Yeah.
nice. And okay, so you've already shared that you are kind of a person who likes to get pampered in one of those days. But I do
Mm.
feel compelled to ask this question: is that what kind of a person you personally are? Do you like to go out, travel, have good food, and obviously on the means kept that one day aside in which you want to be pampered? What about the other 3 days? You like to, either you like to go out, have good food, talk to people,
Mm.
or you just want to go and sit inside your room, maybe read a book and just be all by yourself.
Uh, yeah. So if I'm having cramps, I would like to rest. But I know that if I have responsibilities, like work is always a great way to take your mind off your any of the pain. So I've had days where I have to go to printing, and I've taken the pills and just gone there and stood the whole day and finished up the printing job. So printing job is basically working in a karkhana, so very noisy place and all. But for the rest of the 3 days, if I'm on my periods, I would be very particular about eating healthy food, and not missing my yoga class or my swimming classes. So I would like everything to be on time, and spend a little. And uh, it would be really nice if people are really understanding around me. You usually, I don't know, I mean, maybe I'm blessed, but I would not say that I'm blessed. I have created this company for me. I have created the culture like that. So it's very easy for me to say to my other staff that, hey, I'm having menstrual cramps, or I'm on my periods, and I don't want to do this right now. And my colleagues are pretty like once they know that somebody is on their period or something like that, they would take their the workload off you. So and we also have a culture of menstrual leave. So at Menstrupedia, you can take 1 day leave for your menstrual cramp. So all of that makes the whole experience pretty easy.
That's really
But it's
nice.
not, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and that's really nice. And I'd like to point out that we again burst a few myths here. That first is taking medicines, which is again considered a huge taboo. That you should not be taking medicines. And second is swimming. So
Hmm.
please tell us about your, how can girls go to swim having while having their periods, right?
While having the pace. So swimming is not for everyone. I love swimming, but enjoying rain is something that we don't want to miss. But somehow, when you're on your periods, you miss it. You miss your park and all that. So when you're swimming, your body is like this because of the buoyancy. There is no absolutely no blood flow that comes out of your body. But please don't take chances. Use a tampon or a menstrual cup. A tampon or a menstrual cup is worn inside, and there is no blood flow that comes out of your body when you are swimming. It is science. It is pure science, nothing else. So if you are using a tampon and menstrual cup, you can go for rain dance, you can go for swimming, you can enjoy the rains, all of that. So yeah, that is it. And I love swimming especially because swimming relaxes you so much, and that is why I'm like very actually swimming was the reason I went for using tampon. So I was very comfortable using the sanitary pad. And I like, oh, I don't want to miss my classes. That is why I went for tampon.
So there, you can always go to swim. It's as simple as using a tampon. Go to swim, enjoy your life. Don't stop your life because of something that is so natural and simple, please. Then again, so ma'am, बहुत ज़्यादा serious questions हो गए. I just like
Mm.
I'm coming back to my last question, and I want it to be real fun. So you
Okay.
shared a lot of experiences from all throughout your life and your career, but I would want you to share for one last time with us one very funny or memorable moment of yourself when you're in your school or college life that you would never, you can never forget, and you'll always cherish it.
यार ये बहुत funny. Okay. Okay. Now I'm questioning my life. It has been really boring.
Oh, नहीं, anything, it
Funny.
could be anything मैम, anything. It's मतलब जरूरी नहीं है कि menstruation से ही related हो, कुछ भी हो, just some memory, good memory, just to create that.
Ah, okay. So there would be some which is quite funny in my head, but I don't know how much funny it will be for the other person. Hmm. I think one of the really funny moment was me using menstrual cups only. Yeah. I think in my head also it's really funny. So I was going to, this was the first time I was taking a US trip, and it's a very long trip, and I did not pack any sanitary napkin because I was so sold out on the idea of menstrual cup. I had my period in the on the airport itself, and like, okay, so the bathroom is really small, and I think I have I have tried more positions with menstrual cups than than my partner. So I have to like to put the menstrual cup like everywhere. And one time, what happened? I was taking the menstrual cup out, and because of the slippery nature of it, it just came out of my hand, and there was blood everywhere in the airport bathroom. And then it was like a crime scene, and people were becoming very impatient because I was taking a lot of time. So people were banging my door and all of that. It was really funny. I really think that I created a crime scene in that United Airways craft about with my menstrual cup and me trying a lot of positions.
Oh God, that was so here's a scene out of a thriller movie for you guys. And on that note, on that note, we've come to the end of our interview with Aditi ma'am. That was the amazing Aditi Gupta for you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed it and you guys learned a lot. And ma'am, just if you would like to add something else, if you would like to add something else before we.
Please create a period positive world, and creating a period positive world means talking about it. That's all.
On that note, thank you so much, ma'am, for taking out your time and coming on with us.
Thank
We're really
you.
glad to have you, and all I can say is thank you so much for the message that
Thank
you.
you, yeah. Thank you, Ekta. Thank you. Thank you for being patient.